You made the heavens, planted the earth, gave us stars for direction. But what was it worth if we don't have love? Oh, your perfect love. You filled the oceans, painted the sky, gave us each other. So tell me why, why we're lacking love. Oh, why we're lacking love. Oh, can't you see the darkness trying to divide? Yeah, you know it's up to us to keep shining bright and let our hearts stay lifted high. Oh, can't you see the darkness trying to divide? My Lord, you know it's up to us to keep shining bright and let our hearts stay lifted high. Oh, you can prophesy, speak in the tongues you made, but if you don't have compassion, how will they understand that we were made from love? Oh, we were made from love. Oh, yeah. Oh, can't you see the darkness trying to divide? My Lord, you know it's up to us to keep shining bright and let our hearts stay lifted high. Oh, can't you see the darkness trying to divide? Oh, you know it's up to us to keep shining bright and let our hearts stay lifted high. Time to spread more love. Oh, perfect love. Supernatural love. Your love.
Good morning! Welcome to Spirituality Gone Wild, everybody. I am back with a Cuppa Grata. That's with a shot of expression and 2 squirts of reality. And today I've got a phenomenal co-squirt. Y'all are going to love this one. I do. We are going to get deeply into quantum therapeutics and what that means and how that we use this process for true transformation and healing. Before I get into that, I want to say thank you to True Osborne. That's who you were just listening to. And a good morning to Kimmy and Prince. Good morning. So without further ado, I am going to welcome Cherie Doyen. Let me welcome her to the stage. Welcome, Cherie.
Good morning. Thank
Good.
you for having me.
Good morning. I am so thrilled that you are here with us today. And I'm looking here and you are the author of quite a few books, actually. Junebug, that looks so adorable, and Spirit Animals, and you've just done all types of bodies of work all over the world. But the thing that we're most interested in today is PTSD and the quantum healing and quantum therapeutics that you do. So without me talking too much, I'd like to know from you, what exactly is it that you're doing with quantum therapeutics?
Quantum therapeutics, through my process of healing myself, I came from deep trauma. And, I was like, what is that action? Like, I was studying everything and I kept hitting a wall. And I was like, what is the action that's truly going to untangle me? Not an idea, not something I'm learning. What can I do? And I really started being directed towards the quantum entanglement that comes from us having those traumatic hits, especially as children, right? We've just very recently acquired this body. So we can very easily get out of it and create these out of body experiences and travel and manipulate time in a way that we can get up the next morning and sit across the table from our molesters and abusers.
I love this. And in my world, there's deep appreciation for anybody that I labeled a perpetrator or a transgressor. So I love that you're bringing this up because I think this work is valuable and highly important. So if any of you on this morning have ever dealt with trauma, go ahead and type it in the chat. If you have questions for Cherie, let's start rocking and rolling with those. So you're right up my alley. I love anything to do with trauma work. Let's just go ahead and talk about what exactly, because listen, we all go through this forgiveness stage, and in my world, forgiveness is like still judging the act, and there's deeper stuff than that. There's this point. It could be a color of something that keeps re-triggering and keeps you looped in that cycle. But let's talk about what looping is, because during our conversations, and this stuff is important, what is a loop? How do you get stuck in that, and how do you get out?
Well, it's a time loop. It's a cyst. It's an encapsulation of a moment that a child has no processing tools for, right? If sex
Yeah,
is your life at 3, what do you do with that?
right.
Other than get out, right? It's an energy that you don't even know how to interact with, right? And you have no words to put with it. So, you rise up out of your body and you encapsulate that, right? And then when you come back down, like you're coming back down at the end. Now, what I can say is, as a child, I know I came here to do this because I had such awareness around weird things. But I can remember, like, after horrific beatings, like going back to my room and trying to hold that moment so that I could tell someone, right? We wonder why these kids don't tell. They can't remember. Like, even as an adult, like how people come at you for for details. You feel like, you're 5 years old on the witness stand being attacked by attorneys, right?
Yeah.
Don't really have the details. So I was aware enough to know that because through my journey, I was asked numerous times, right? And it was like I had no words to say truly what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's hard for a child to be able to, with any type of trauma, to know how to verbalize that. And I think so. What does that process look like to help somebody to not only, if they're not remembering, to remember, but then to actually transmute it? Because what your work does, it actually stops the looping.
It stops the looping. It eliminates the triggers.
That's right.
It
So let's
starts-
dive into that. How do you do that? Because listen, I know so many people. I know myself that I had Cherie just getting stuck in patterns, getting stuck in the old way, in the old system. How do we break this? Because this is important. And all addictions are based in shame, and all addiction is based in, that's the coping skill that they learned. So actually what you're doing is a deeper form of all recovery work. If
yeah,
you if you
really,
put it into one.
wipe
Mhm.
the slate clean.
Totally. So yeah, this is what I love about you.
Yeah.
So how do they do that?
Well, these kids already know how to get in and out of their body. They've lived outside of their body most of their lives, right? Well, I had a psychiatrist one time say, I don't know how to help you, but you're not in there,
What
man.
does that and what did that feel like for
That's a
you?
literal thing, right? Like I traveled the world and back going, where am I? Right?
Wow,
Our
yeah.
astral body is what disconnects from our physical body when we choose to astral travel, quantum jump, and meditation often, right? Where we're disconnecting from our physicalness and
Mhm.
connecting to that,
Yeah.
right? A kid, like, they just can do that. So what's beautiful with people that as we're cleaning this up, they're being reconnected and creating distinctions around their natural innate superpowers, right? So like I can sit with a person in 2 seconds. We just go, all right, how old do you feel right now? Let's go there. Now, what I can say is I was hypnotized a bunch of times or tried to, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is a very different thing than traveling through time.
Okay.
Right? So when we insert ourselves in time, it's a delicate space. You need a guide, right? But when we insert ourselves in time, we can truly rectify that situation. And what is really powerful is that I'm seeing that we can also be affecting the abuser at the same time, right? If
Mm.
we go in and say, look what this is causing, right? From our space of today, and walk in and address whatever is going on there, right? Along with giving the child the tools to continue forward. Now, we know in meditation, we're often calling our highest, most realized self in. We're that to her. We're that to her. So she's calling us. I know that through my lifetime, there was just so much time feeling like I was being chased and running. And when I stopped and turned around, I realized it was me going, hey, you forgot me. Now, when I really started diving into the quantum side of this, our astral body has weight. There's been studies around that. If it has weight, it has molecules, right? Now, I love when different aspects of things converge. And when we talk about, in psychology, they talk about this fragmentation. What if that's literal?
Okay. Okay.
Our body is fragmenting, right? So in that loop is a hologram that has your molecules trapped in time, playing your worst nightmare over and over again, right? So when we can go in and dismantle that loop, almost like a cyst of infection in your body, your body will reabsorb it, time reabsorbs that, right?
Mm.
So that we can start living up rather than sideways.
I like that. I like that a lot.
It's fast, right? I have these young people I'm working, the young people, we don't have to convince them. Like they're in their early 30s. And, both were in traditional therapy for a really long time. And they were in couples therapy together because here they're trying to have a relationship coming from traumatic backgrounds, both of them, right? So how is that going to look? And in 6 sessions, they've accomplished more than they accomplished in 3 to 5 years of therapy, right? They both quit their therapy, started with one. They, the wife was like, oh my gosh, this is so fast, right? She quits her therapy. They're coming in doing couples and individual. And literally in 6 sessions, they've accomplished more, and
That's beautiful.
and what's interesting is, like, to me, healing was always just an idea. It's like, how long can I think about this?
Mm-hmm.
Right? When true healing shows up, it's going to show up in your life. Right? That means if couples aren't having intimacy is returned. If they're whatever they're banging up against,
Yeah.
life can truly change very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. So I'm curious, what does the process look like? So it's not a hypnosis, is it a guided meditation that you're doing?
No.
No. Okay.
Absolutely not.
What does it look like?
Like, if somebody's in the middle of a story, like, it's so simple. Like, if somebody is in the middle of a story and I start tracking. Now, we live in 5 levels of being, right? Our behaviors, our emotions, spirituality, our physicality, and our our processing, right? Now, when an event converges through all 5 levels of those being, that is usually when a loop is created. Like, it's too much to know what to do with, right? So during a session, as a person's talking, right, I start tracking words and I track patterns through all 5 levels of being, right? And when I see that moment of convergence, I just say, close your eyes. How old do you feel right now? Right? And they're like, oh, I feel like I'm 7. And I'm like, can you see where she is? Right? And they're like, oh, she's in her bedroom, curled up in a ball in the corner. And I'm like, all right, can you see the front of the house? Yeah, I can see the front of the house. I said, let's go there. Right?
Yeah.
Let me know when your feet are on the ground, your grown-up feet. Right? And when they get there, they can start describing things. Right? They can start really describing things. And I make that a very tactile space because I want them to be in time, not in memory. Right? So I'm like, can you bend down and touch the ground?
Ooh, yeah.
What is it cold outside? Or is the sun out? Right? Like, and we really start becoming very tactile in that place before we enter. Because I want them to enter as a grown-up, not as the child. Right? Hypnosis usually takes you back to the child. Right? So as we enter the house, right, in each step, we're like saying, having them pay attention. What's going on? Right? Where's your mom? Is she, oh, she's in the kitchen off to the right. I'm like, hey, what is she doing? Can you peek in there? Right? And we make that a very tactile space where they know they're there. Right? And by the time they get to the child, it's a child. It's not, right, something that is them. And, if we can be in an adult space, then we can actually offer that child what they need to truly process that moment, which changes our history if we allow it. Right? So now from there, right, a vortex started showing up. Right? And because I was like, okay, so we're there, we're interacting, but what actually unifies those molecules, right? There's a lot of talk about integration, and that's all a thought. But what actually unifies those molecules?
What does?
Yeah, I was given a vortex, right? So I was given a vortex, and it's really beautiful. Like, for men, they don't like the games, but for men, usually it'll just show up. But for women, right, these little kids love to play Ring Around the Rosie or spinning games, right? So they'll create the vortex themselves. Now, the beauty about this is that every step of the way, they're using their own magic and their innate abilities.
Correct.
Right? I'm just guiding them.
That makes sense.
And I can see through people's eyes, so I can see what they're not seeing if they get it stuck in emotion. Often I don't have to interfere at all, right? So when they go into the vortex, it's like everything just becomes energy, right? And in that energy, the molecules can be reabsorbed into the whole of the astral body, right? Which creates instant wholeness. People will come back and go, oh, I feel oddly heavier, but oddly lighter, right? Or things feel crisper, or I feel bigger, right? Depending on the amount of fragmentation, right? Now we know that, people talk about near-death experiences all the time, and I've been very curious about that, right? I don't see a difference.
That makes sense.
I don't see a difference at all. So if we can really understand that, and in the near-death experience studies, they talk about how much of your astral body you leave with your physical body, right? And they talk about that separation and us being able to fragment it, right? In the near-death studies, it's no different. We've just decided to stay alive, right? We went back over and over and over again. We chose to go back, right?
Absolutely. I love this. So I'm curious, what about the dream state? I mean, isn't that it's like it, but not really the same. With this, I'm feeling like that you're conscious of it.
They're completely conscious.
Yeah, so I think that that's the difference between going into straight hypnosis, because in hypnosis you're not really conscious.
Right. They're
Yeah.
inputting information into you.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
not what this is, right? They're acquiring information. Now, I have had people recover so much memory in this space, right? I have a young woman that was actually diagnosed with alternate personality disorder.
Mhm.
And, you know, through this process, she has been able to pretty much completely eliminate that.
Okay. Okay. That's beautiful. And I'm loving this because it is time for this change to happen,
It's
because
all our power, right? It's
yeah, it's all
what I
mhm.
find is these are the most magical people on the planet, and
Yeah.
the system has us
Mhm.
completely tangled up
Right.
and disempowered.
And one of the things that I recognize, and those that are watching, you may recognize this too. If you are resonating with what Cherie is saying, it's most likely because we come from that space. And, that's one of the things. You aren't just somebody out there who's saying, oh, here, use NLP or EFT because that's going to heal everything. And I'm like over there going, no, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. And what I always notice is it's those people that don't come from the trauma
Mhm.
and I love that they're there, and I love that they want to make a difference for the world. And I think that's beautiful. But the fact is that you have to know from whence you came, what the heck is going on. And seriously, like this point of reference of understanding, the best teachers are the ones that have walked the path. So I want to appreciate that about you, because I know not only are you willing to step forward and show how to transmute this, but you're also willing to share how that transpired for you. What I love is that this is the ability to everyone gets stuck. I used to be stuck on a story, Cherie, a story of where I came from. Well, I grew up with this, and this, and this, and this, and this. I think I even have another story that I'm still stuck with. It was when I broke my back, and I was in theater and singing, and I played music and all of that till I broke my back when I was
Mhm.
17. And now I notice that my entire I decorate like I'm 17. So I think it's hilarious. Like I'm stuck at 17, which 17 was
Oh,
fun. That
see?
was my heavy metal days, man.
So
But
you need to hang out with me for a minute and let's let you experience what it's like to jump,
mm,
right? What I love is like, I mean, if people have PTSD, it's like I don't have to explain it to them. Like their conscious mind on the other side
yeah,
has a lot of questions. It's truly just like, boom, they know how to do it.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it becomes more about distinctions because I know as far as the spiritual side growing up, like I didn't know you couldn't hear the animals talk. I didn't know that you couldn't hear what's going on in people's minds. Right? I didn't know that you couldn't like leave your body whenever you wanted to. I didn't know you couldn't travel through dimensions. I didn't know you couldn't see into the next room. I didn't know that. I didn't know that you couldn't hear, spirits talking. I didn't know that, right? So,
Till you got told that you couldn't, right?
well, it was almost like I was so neglected. Like it was my mode of operating where I really hit the wall with my magical gifts was when I left.
Okay.
Cried to enter the world, right? And I had no distinctions around all that. I didn't know where the end of one gift ended and the next one started.
Mm.
Like so it was very noisy in my head.
Oh, I imagine so.
Very noisy in my head. And I find that most people that are tangled up in the quantum entanglement of trauma, that's them, right? There's so much to process.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And, trying to create distinctions and understand truth, right? If somebody's saying they're loving you while they're punching you in the head, like, what does that mean? Right? You start looking behind words,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? In my bubble, words are cheap, man.
Right? Yeah.
I'm going to
That's,
look
yeah.
behind what you're doing, right? And on this, on the love space, I truly believe that real true love is justice, balance, and wisdom. It's not this ooey gooey heart space, right?
Nope.
Because we're not holding people accountable. And true love holds people accountable. And I don't mean in a blame space, but I mean in a growth space. Nobody's going to grow if they're allowed to from little on push barriers with people.
That's right.
And I know in my instance, like I talk about, the watchers, I call them the watchers all the time, right? There were a whole bunch of people around me that knew what was going on, right? There were a whole bunch of people that witnessed a whole lot of things that said
Mhm.
nothing and were quiet, right? And where's love in that, right? In those conversations, it's like, well, this, why can't you just forgive them? And it's like, this isn't about that. How many people have gotten harmed since me because no one was held accountable? And I don't mean punishment. I mean families standing up and going, no, we don't do that, right? Because right now, like the victims take it, man. They take the fall. And
Mhm.
that's completely upside down. Now, abusers, like I feel like, people that have come from trauma are on a spectrum. Either they end up abusing people or they end up like, being victims again, over and
Mhm.
over again, right? What I can say is watching my, dealing with my father as we rose out of this together. The last time I sat with him, in some weird way, because they very much oddly all protected him from my work, right? All of them, my brothers, my mom, everybody protected him from my work. But what was interesting is when I went down and I sat with him. I was in New Zealand actually and had this huge experience of, you know, forgiveness with my father and cleansing his lineage of pain and suffering. And it was totally through the men. And I lived his death at that moment. And I was like, okay. So when I got back from New Zealand, I drove down to see him just so that he would know that. And I had told him numerous times through the years that I forgave him, but there's always different levels of forgiveness, right? So
Yeah.
this was a level of forgiveness that I thought I was complete. And as I sat across from him, it was interesting, his awareness. He was like, I know that you worked with domestic violence. He said, what boggles my mind is why they stay. Right? Now, this is out of the mouth of an abuser, a pedophile, right? He had a
Mhm.
piece of paper that said he was legally insane, right? Like this was coming out of his mouth, like as to like, why do women stay? And that's where we have to start looking at love. Like if love is directed at one person
Mhm.
and it's causing harm to everyone else, that's not love, right? That's not love. My mother used to say to me, he loves you best. She'd say that to me over and over again.
Mhm.
He loves you best. And it's like, well, is that love if it's causing this much harm? I don't think so. So I think us coming into a new definition of what that means, what love really means, right?
Mhm.
Justice is not what we call it. Justice is balance. It's the scales. It's years ago, it was like, a truce. That was a word that came through to me.
Right.
It's a truce. And I think that as we move forward, something that's come through to me really powerfully recently is the wisdom circuit, right? And the wisdom circuit has been disconnected in most of us for our entire life, right? We know people that operate from left brain. We know that people operate from right brain. We know that people live completely from their intuition or completely from their heart, right? We have brain cells in our heart and we have brain cells in our gut. And when that circuit is connected, every piece of information is going through every one of those processing systems so that when you come out on the other side, you're standing in balanced information, right? If we're just operating from our heart, a lot of times people around, whatever you're doing, are getting hurt. And that's not love either, right?
Absolutely. I love that you're breaking what love is open. I mean, this is February. This is love month. It's also your birthday month, I should mention. And is it today?
No, it's the 11th.
It's the 11th. It's coming up, guys. Her birthday's
Coming up.
coming up. Yeah, mine was just, and we're both Aquarians, and I love
Mhm.
this. What I love is that you're bringing up how that love has this balance. And I think that this is really important because, there's a lot of people out there. When your dad asked that very important question, why do women stay in abused situations? They've coined it or labeled it battered woman syndrome. And the reason why would I know that? Because I was in a shelter that taught me that,
Mhm.
So what don't you want to do? They get stuck in this cycle though. And the cycle is just, I don't know about you guys if you've ever been in an abusive situation, but mine, I wouldn't have done that if you hadn't blah, blah, blah. And then the abused one's going, oh yeah, you're right. Blah, blah, and it's just a cycle. It's a
It's a
cycle, but
cycle.
it's a pattern cycle that we're taught.
But what's beautiful is those cycles can be completely disconnected.
That's what I love right now. Yeah.
What you want, right? Like,
Right.
it's amazing. And yeah, absolutely. And I totally understand that. And I, work with a lot of women in that situation. And I hear over and over again, but I love him. And
I
I'm
love
like,
him. Yeah, yeah.
what about the love of your children? Because you're hurting them.
Oh,
You are
man.
hurting
Right,
them,
right.
right? Your choice,
Mhm.
is hurting them.
Totally.
My mother actually said to me, I'm not going to be able to live here when you leave.
Mm.
Why do you think that is? Right? These kids end up being the buffer
Yeah, yeah.
so that you can live over here with your head in the sand, right? Now, the most beautiful love that we can ever, I guess, the most beautiful example of real solid love that we can see on this planet is mom when she's truly being mom.
She does.
Right?
Yeah.
When she's depersonalized and truly being mom, because she is, the matriarch, right, of this microcosmic universe. And she is able to give people what they need over what they want, right? And each one of those choices is pushing growth, right? If a kid's sitting on the couch and they're afraid to go out and play, she's going to push them to go play.
Yeah.
That's what is missing from our adulthood, right?
So
And our relationships.
I'm curious about something because here's what I know with a lot of the people I work with, and also it was true for myself at one point in my life. I was afraid to do trauma work. I didn't really want to face it. I didn't want to go. I was always thinking, oh, I'm gonna have to go through that again. I'm not gonna do that shit. So I mean, seriously. And if anybody out there, if you're afraid to go through that work, what I'm loving about what Cherie does, and this is from my own experience in quantum jumping, because I'm a Burt Goldman fan. But what I love is that this isn't bypassing. This is literally hitting it head on and you making a choice, the decision to use your superpowers and change what is in that memory bank of yours. And all I can say is it's the old Mikey life cereal commercial. You won't know if you like it until you try it. And if you want to try it, what you do is you go right here. You see right there, it's floating across the screen. right there. That's what you do, and you go book an appointment and you start this work. I highly encourage it. So we're actually going to do a little bit of a shift, just a tad, because I really want to talk about.
Can I add one thing really quick?
Oh yeah, please.
What's cool about this in addressing, I don't want to go be in that again. You're in it every day, right? Right now, you're in it every day, right? We aren't in it. It's not about the emotion, right? This is about, I know, you see my this is about, reconciling it.
What a gorgeous thing. Reconciling, you guys.
Yeah. So it's not about the emotion. It's about reconciling it. And, the child has a story and you have a story, and your story's been scotch taped together so that you could deal. She knows what's true, right? So when we can bring those two into one, we don't have to pick at it anymore.
Right on. Here's one of the things that I love about you. Not only do you work with people to get them to this space, but I see right here, I'm looking at some of our fellow coaches and healers and whatnot, and this is coming from me. You can't stop growing. You can't stop growing. And what I know is I cannot wait to take your courses. And she actually teaches this and certifies you to do this work. So it's quite fascinating. So let's talk a little bit about working, because the healers have to heal the healer. Heal the healers.
Yes, and my program is set up to trigger you, because I want you to be completely clean, so that you're not a distorted mirror to the next person.
Hot damn.
I had a lot of healers, do me wrong. Not do me wrong. They were doing the best they could, but they knew how, yeah. Right? I had one healer in the very beginning of my journey, as these memories of my father, like I had processed everything, and then when the sexual abuse of my father rose into my consciousness, I was with this healer, medical intuitive, and I said, I think my dad has been molesting me, or had been. And she said, oh, you didn't know that, right? So years later, I'm in a medical intuitive class by a very renowned teacher, and she just out of the blue walks up to me and said, I know you have this, you're grappling with the idea of your dad molesting you. He didn't do that. Right? So again, this doubt, the self-doubt, because we're always going to want to believe the best of our parents, right? So this doubt that was in the core of my being, right, hung there until just recently, when he told my brother that happened, right? And it came into the 3D, and so as healers, I'm super passionate about them being clean, their timeline being clean. They're not reflecting back their story onto someone else.
Hallelujah. Right. Okay. Rock on.
So that program is set up where we teach. We meet twice a week. We meet individually, and we meet collectively in the class, right? So that whatever this is pushing up for you, because I have real live case studies that we witness. So we witness my working with some pretty difficult trauma, right? And, I've had people in my class, well, I'm not going to work with sexual trauma. And I'm like, it's a backdrop of at least the third of whoever you're going to be sitting with. So to say that, right, you're going to be in the hot seat when that shows up for you, right? So because at the backdrop of most everything, not most, but a lot, right? They say a third of our people have been violated by the time they're 18. Right. So
it's actually higher. It's higher than that. And that's, it's totally higher than that. And here's
right.
Yeah. But here's the beauty in all this. Like, boys are not safe. little girls, you guys, this is
No, I've
important.
had just as many men. They're
Exactly. And
more
so
afraid to talk about it.
I got to tell you, if anybody watching this right now or on the replay comes from these experiences, you are here to be a healer of this, and what you're doing is holding space while people heal themselves. It's really what this is about. We are working with each other and doing this in unison, but this is really important. Step forward, and let's step into the quantum therapeutics. Let's step into a quantum space. And if that's a new thing for you, research it a little. Go over here to the website, take a look into it. Look at Burt Goldman. Seriously, he was in his 70s or no, 60s, late 60s when he brought out quantum jumping and would come back and paint, come back and do something else. I've done it, and I went back. I did this, came back and played the piano. I have it recorded.
Mhm.
It's so cool, right?
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't it never ever dawned on me that to use the quantum I've done quantum sessions where I've met my highest self, and I've integrated that, but it never dawned on me that you could use this quantum that in yours is much deeper. I can't wait to see all the aspects of how that you do this, to actually transmute these other things. And this is what the beauty of it is, that that this works. You have people that talk about how gorgeous this process is, and I'm excited because it's about darn time. And
I
again,
was
for
in
those of you,
therapy for 30 years. Like for at least 40 years, I worked on healing myself. How narcissistic is that? All we're thinking about is ourselves.
oh shit, right? No, but it's true. Oh my
It's
God,
true,
Cherie,
right?
the minute that you woke up and realized that you have narcissistic tendencies, what
Oh
the
my
hell,
gosh, that was
right?
a switch, right?
Total, man. Like,
But it
oh
is
shit,
true. Like
yeah.
every thought you have is about you, right? There's no service in
Jesus.
that, no matter how hard you're trying.
Yeah, there is none of that. No, there's none.
Because I spent years working in the shelter, but as long as this is here, that's not
Yeah.
service. That became sacrifice, right? Because I was doing everything I could to get up in the morning, right? You
Mhm,
know,
mhm. Oh, I love this. Look, Francisco, who, oh my gosh, I love you. I love you. I love this young man. It's this hot topic about the empath is the narc sometimes. Girl, guys, this is
true.
what, my God. I'm going to
And do
own
you
this.
know that, most
I
people
did
that
it.
have PTSD are empaths? And what I can
Always.
say
Yeah.
is it is a lack of responsibility on a level, because an empath is the highest level of gifts there is. It's everything rolled into one. Like
Yeah.
earlier, when I was saying I could hear the animals talk, and I could hear what was going on in your head, and I could feel what was going on in your body, and I could all these things, right?
Yeah.
As a kid, that wasn't a detriment to me, right? It kept me alive.
Yep.
Right now, when I went out into the world, it became a burden, right? Because I didn't know how to utilize those gifts. There were no distinctions, there were no choice of when I was doing what, right? So through this quantum process, we're not only eliminating our reabsorbing these loops, we're also re-engaging your gifts and truly setting up distinction around what you're doing, how you're accessing your information, how you're processing it, how efficient that is,
Yep.
and how we can move that from unconscious to conscious, right? We're also supporting the body in a big way, because if you're going through this huge upgrade through the other layers of being, your body, I know my body was I almost died 9 times, right? So
Yep.
my
Yep. Yep.
body didn't have any life force in it. Like by the end, my heart was barely beating. I had no pulse because there was no life force. Our astral body is our life force, right? But if you're running from information, this is it. every ounce of information comes through here. Right? So we really have to support. I really spend a lot of energy through the water molecule, right? Because we've been really undernourished in every way, and we're 80% water. I love that the Great White Wizard, right, alternated water and God, just like this, right? So we have to understand that on this planet, without water, there's nothing. And if I'm cursing at you and it affects the plant, why do I not know that it's affecting the water molecules in you? Right? If we know that it's going to affect the water molecules in a glass of water. You know, when we think about that live water that's in every human, right?
Mhm.
I start really spending a lot of energy around the water.
I dig it. What I'm gonna say is that what I hope everyone's getting right now is it's time. Quit holding on to the story that you think serves you. Get over it. Get over yourself. If you're like me, I was in I've been back and forth in the narcissist land because I was heavily and a big empath. I loved this. I spent 30 years healing myself. How narcissistic was that?
Yeah.
All right, you guys, listen. We are the kindest, sweetest people in the world, and everybody's got this big label on what a narcissist is, but all it is more it's more trauma coming out, and it is time to transmute that. It doesn't take months and months and months and months and months. It takes a session or two. It takes the intention and desire and want to let go of your crap. Let go of what of I came from this, and this, and all my life, and because listen, that victim syndrome, it doesn't serve you anymore. It didn't serve me anymore. And I'm human, Cherie. Sometimes, okay, yesterday I went into a mode. I was under resourced and I was dealing with a situation where I didn't want to listen to somebody saying something at the moment. Okay. I spoke my truth, but I spoke it too harshly. So it came out judgy. And actually, no, I was being judgy just because I was being an asshole. Sorry, guys. Sorry, cussing. Okay. But it's true. So here's what happened. I apologized. And then I had to go do other things. I literally called this person back because what you're saying right now about how that we're affecting other people. So don't wait don't wait to croak and go through some life review. Start right this minute. And I sat back and went, what must be real for this woman that I just spoke to like that? And all she wanted was probably safe space to express what was going on for her. And I did. So I immediately called back and immediately rectified that and immediately went in. I didn't beat myself up, but I went into owning my crap, my narcissistic. I didn't go into make wrong. But I did before that. That's why I had to call her and rectify it because I slipped into an old pattern because I didn't feel like dealing with what I was listening to.
Well,
So then yeah, but everything's good right now. But man, without these kinds of tools, that shit can't happen. You're still
and
stuck
the
over in
more
that
we
old yoke.
become aware, right? Because
Yeah.
with this piece of information dropping in with my father's death,
Yeah.
my brother was afraid to share that with me. He held that information for a while because he in his mind, his story was that I would want to go and confront dad with it, and he had dementia and he didn't want me to get hurt, right? So he gives me this piece of information, and I instantly, my dad goes, hey, I don't want you to hold this against me, but I did, and I'm like, was he talking about me? And he goes, yeah, I assume so, right? And I just kind of was, my body literally was thrown backwards, and I was like, okay, well, that's extraordinarily validating right now, as far as moving that from the idea column into reality for all of the watchers, right? But key point, by the time I got to the car, I was already building a story as to why he kept that information from me, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
By the time I got to the car, I was in my old story of, everybody's always keeping secrets. Like, why wouldn't he have just called me and told me that? Like a whole story, right? By the time I got up the next morning, I was in my old pattern of like, I am done. I got in my car and I drove back to New Mexico, right? Now,
Mhm.
what did that cause? Right? My siblings and I had not been in the same room for at least 12 years. Like, we're like islands because none of us had the same experience, but they were all awful, right? So, everybody came together and I was over here, right? So part of that isolation and separation is my story because I always put myself over here. I'm done, right? And when we can start becoming aware in real time and seeing that stuff happen,
Yeah, when you know
those,
you're doing it. Mhm.
yeah, then we can start going, okay, right?
Yeah.
That is my story. That's not what's true, right?
Boom! Ha! Right there. That
Not
is my
what's true.
story. That's not what's true. And in fact, ask yourselves, is that
Is
really
this true?
true?
That's
Woo!
the goalpost for quantum. Is that true?
Breakthrough,
Because we have
everybody.
so many
Yeah,
stories.
right? Right. But is it
We
true?
create them, and it's
Woo!
crazy. I live up on top of a mountain, so I can watch them build.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't have any other input, right? I can watch them build, and as they start, I can like pull. I can dismantle that. But if I let it grow,
Yeah.
right, within 5 minutes, you're entrenched.
Hot diggity. I hope that everyone that's watching right now and watching the replay just caught that hard. You have a choice in this life. You have a choice not to stay in the victim anymore because let me tell you, it is not serving. I can say that, and Cherie can say that because we lived it, we've been that. And when that's been in life, that just is. We are the people here to give you hope and to tell you, let's change it. Change it right now. Ask yourself, is it true? That old story that you're attached to, how is it even serving you? If you're still stuck in it, you're in victim mode and it's time to get out because there isn't time anymore. It's done. And here y'all are lucky because like right now we just this new shift in the paradigm, we just shift it like it's like, magic. I remember that back in soap days. Remember soap?
Mhm.
Remember that show? And he used to go like this, you can't see me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you can't see me. I love that. But I mean, this is really powerful information, and it's some of my favorite information to bring forward because it is time for people to take responsibility, accountability, and heal themselves, and stop thinking that that this world is against them. So I want to know. We're in the last few minutes here of the hour, and I'd like to know how appreciation and gratitude fits into your work because I love to always shift it back. And for the audience, can you let me know who you're grateful for today? Because I'd love to know that. So, Cherie, how does that work for you?
Well, we're so entrenched in our suffering that every every time I meet with somebody else, say what new and different has shown up for you, right? We science says we bring in 4 billion bits of information and we process 100, so we have to learn to see something different, right? So
Yeah.
that is a goalpost for us. What is new and different, right? And we measure, right? And we celebrate because I've worked with people that, without measuring, they're still back here in the suffering, even though they have no, I'll be like, you don't have PTSD anymore. This is a choice, right? You don't have any quantum entanglements, right? So learning to live differently is us learning to see something of that 100 bits in a new and different way, right? So I send them on a hunt, right? And where do you want to see change? Because we have to start looking in. So that is a constant with us every time I meet with somebody. And I meet with people twice a week, right? So it's like, because we're on a rhythm, I want to get you done, right? So at the end of, every day,
In
what's
and
new?
out. See, but that's another thing I love about you, because see, you're like I am. We work with people. That's it. But it's not that we're doing it, but they take their power back. They take their remembrance back of who they are.
I don't want to hold
Yeah.
your hand for 30 years.
Yeah, please,
I
no.
want you to get done so that you
Oh,
can
yeah.
live on purpose and get to your mission of why you're here.
I
Because,
think, yeah.
every person I work with they're just such amazingly magical people. Like, they're activists at their core, and they're tangled up with their selves.
Right. Right. I love it. I love it. So I am just grateful and appreciating the work that you're bringing forward. I love gratitude and appreciation because of the vibration of the word of joy and but acceptance. You can't get into those spaces until that you're willing to accept and accept just things as they are, just as they are. And there's just a whole lot of great living out there for you all. And it's time for you to take back your power and know who you are, and to remember your greatness. And that's why I'm here, is to help you remember your greatness. And Cherie is here to help you remember your greatness, and you can find her right here, floating across the screen, CherieDoyen.com. It's CherieDoyen. Okay, .com. And
Freedom call. I have a 30-minute free call. Like, I'd love to talk to you. I'll be straightforward, because my passion is to not hold your hand forever. I want you to get on purpose and in the fastest way possible. The energies right now are amazing. What used to take me an hour and a half takes me about an hour, right? So the energies are prime right now. We're in gateway time for this change. The universe wants karma to be done. Karma, PTSD, it's all the same thing.
yeah, and that's the cool part, and that's what's being said here. It can be changed. Hey, Erin, how's it going, sweetie? Instead of finding comfort in the unknown, the need to be taken care of, to live on the edge and stepping into the uncertainty of stability. And unconditional love is the best.
Yeah, when we can find it, right? And I think we have to learn individually what that looks like.
We do need to learn individually what that looks like. I love that. Actually, that's one of the coolest things on the planet. Your cat is adorable, because finding our own truth. And this is why I'm going to do a really quick plug about spirituality gone wild, because that is another place that you guys you're going to be finding Cherie as well, but you're also going to find the Untamed Club. We have great courses for emotional intelligence. We have gratitude alchemy. Modern longevitarian is coming. We have the Miracle Makers Club, and it's all $22 a month. So I'll put the link in the chat later, and we have a 14-day free trial, so you can go ahead and try that. Now back to you, Cherie. So Cherie has a half an hour that you can go ahead and book with her, have a discovery session, and I love it because she'll be completely straight with you, and I love that. And the uncertainty of stability is the new way of being. The uncertainty of stability. Uncertainty, period. Erin, I'll tell you, the word even, when you learn to accept life as it is, just as it is, and change perspective, it really there's this shift, I think, that happens when you do this work, when you do the quantum work. And I love that. And I love what you're saying, Erin. But we're coming up on the hour. So Cherie, any last things that you have? Because we've got
I love what he was saying, because we have to question everything we think we know. Right? Because we have been fed a bucket of goo, and we have to really, really question what we think is true. And we really, have to start pushing the edges of our systems and structures, which is what's happening collectively across the globe right now, right? But personally, we have to do that too. So I understand what he's saying, that where we are always looking for that stability is, is a catch point for a lot of people, because we can get trapped in that.
And that is seriously awesome. And I love that. And I will post some links here in the chat, everybody. I just noticed that just now, Scott Stanfield has started his show, Modern Longevitarian. You want to check this out. It's really good. So we're going to say so long, farewell. I love you. And I'll post our stuff in the chat. Go switch over to Scott. It's cool stuff, man. I love you guys.
Thank you
Remember,
so much.
Spirituality's Gone Wild. Spiritualitygonewild.com. Check out CherieDoyen.com.